Hola, hola, amiga. You are listening to the Best of VLM episode series, which showcases some of the most popular episodes of the Viva la Mami podcast. This episode is one of those. If you enjoy what you hear, make sure you subscribe and don't forget to rate the show and write a review on Apple Podcasts so that other mommies like you can find this podcast. Ahora, let's get into the episode. Hola, hola, amiga. Welcome to another episode of the Viva la Mami podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Cuevas, and today I have a very special guest on the show. Her name is Lucía Garrett. She is the founder of Pato Pato, which is, oh my gosh, I think that it is so nuanced because it is a community of bilingual parents, interactive toys, and really great resources that she offers on Instagram. I feel very privileged and honored whenever she tags me in her posts. I think that it is very important to build community among bilingual parents because we shouldn't do this alone. And so part of our conversation will be about that as far as with how to raise bilingual kids, specifically in the Spanish only stage, which I'm very excited to talk about because as you know, I'm raising Spanish dominant children at this time since they're really little. And I think there's a very key importance in doing that. Pero también we're going to focus on Lucia's business. So, Lucia, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And like you said, I think it's amazing that I can be here and be part of your community too, and say hi to the people that follow you and kind of touch on all of these things that we don't have in common. I feel like a lot of the times we feel a little isolated, and it's important to know that there are other moms, doing the same thing as us. So it's amazing to be here, and thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Well, Lucia, before we delve into the conversation, if you can introduce yourself to our listeners, tell us a little bit more about you, where you live, where you grew up, your family, y toda la cosa.
I was born in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. When I was two, my family moved to Mexico City, and so I consider myself Mexican. I'm an honorary Mexican. Every time anybody asks me, where I'm from Mexico. That's my people. And I was there until I was 17, speaking no English, by the way. Moved to LA. My dad's in the music business, and so he had opportunities in LA, and so he took on. He wanted to be out there. He was traveling out there a lot, so we moved there. And I started my senior year in high school, having read The Call of the Wild and all of the class, like fumbling my way through the classics in English, and that's the English that I knew. And so I got to school, and people talked to me, and I had no idea what they were saying. And
Wow.
that was really tough because obviously senior year, everybody already has their friends and their groups and their cliques and stuff. And it was such a culture shock too, because it's all of those things that I had seen in movies like were real. There were all of these like cliques and groups, and I got lucky that I found a group of Latino kids actually, um, that I became really close with, all of them from different places in Latin America, which was awesome too. And I became really close with them and got through that last year of high school. Then I started college right away. Um, After college, I started working at an advertising agency, which was kind of my dream job. And it was an advertising agency that took all of the American clients, but translated all the stuff for them and worked with them in Spanish, which was just amazing because I got to work with these really big clients, but doing it in Spanish. So it was the best of both
Yeah.
worlds. Um,
Yeah.
then
That's awesome.
I met my husband at my following agency, and together we started our own event marketing agency. And then we shortly after moved to Cincinnati to get married. We got married there. We also had our wedding in Argentina because my grandma was 92 and she couldn't travel, and it was important to me that
Mm.
my family out there was important. It's hard with visas and stuff in Argentina to travel out here, and it was important for me that they were a part of a celebration too. Plus, las fiestas en Latinoamérica son otra cosa. Y entonces era importante como really be able to party out there. You know how it is. It's just different and so much fun. Um, so we had our wedding out there too. And then we were in Cincinnati. We had both of our kids out there. And now we the wind has blown us over to Northwest Arkansas, where we've been for 3 months. And it's been really amazing. It's just there's a lot more of a Hispanic community here, which I love for the kids. I just love that we can go to the park and somebody else is like speaking Spanish to their kids. It makes my heart happy because we were really rural in Ohio. And I mean, we were not exposed to that at all. There's just not that much of a community out there. So it's been really, really cool to kind of like see the kids react to that and be a part of that. It's just really exciting.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story. I had no idea that you were born in Argentina.
I don't know. It's like
and raised in Mexico.
I know. My parents still talk like Argentinians, but I never, como crecí en Mexico, I just never, like, it never stuck. Like, that's just, yeah.
Yeah, you were little, and that's what's interesting, ¿verdad? Like, depending on where people are raised and what their environment is, it really makes an impact in terms of, like, como dicen las cosas, like their accent and all of that.
And even so, culturally, I mean, I learned Mexican history. I learned como estudios cívicos. I learned all of that from Mexico. So that's just it's like an adoptive parent. You know what I mean? That's my country. It's hard to explain, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you talk about the Spanish only stage, and I'm very curious to learn more about that, just because I love how, when you put words into place, you are able to then identify like, oh, this is what we have been utilizing into practice, pero no teníamos las palabras, to name it or title it, right? And so I would love for you to explain what Spanish only stage means and why it's so important for Latina moms to utilize this in that period of their kids' lives.
Totally. So I like to call the Spanish only stage that stage where our children, whether, one parent or both parents are speaking them in Spanish only as they're growing up since they're babies, are only speaking Spanish, right? So it's right before all the outside influences come in and they start picking up English, because when English takes over, it does it really fast. And so what makes that stage really crucial, and it is actually research backed, is that what we're doing is we're giving Spanish a head start, right? And so once English takes over, Spanish has really strong roots, and we're able to carry that bilingualism longer into their lives rather than just doing both languages from the beginning. When a child speaks Spanish first, which is a minority language, soon it won't be for you, but right now, right, being in the US, I think it's really important that we give its place to the minority language and we give it that head start so it will stick.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it makes so much sense, ¿verdad? And I, the way that I've been interpreting it is like they are Spanish dominant. And I just love what you're mentioning, like how you're, I don't know if you coined it or whatever, but the Spanish only stage, I think that's really cool. And I think that is so important. Mateo is part of a research study, part of Loyola University in Chicago. And right now, being that we are local, what the researchers do is that they visit us and they do this kind of like session where they record, they record our interactions. They utilize play-based like research where, they present some toys and then we like play with the toys and just really understanding how we're interacting with our kids. And based on their research, and right now they're like expanding on it more and they're trying to collect more people, to participate in that research. But based on what they've discovered so far is that the first 3 years or 4 of a child's life is so crucial if you want to intentionally raise them bilingual. And I think that as they are bilingual, essentially they will be able to identify as that way. Pero it's so important to raise them in just the minority language first, because así es como, they'll be fully immersed, but it will be easier for them to not forget their language, because then once they start school or once they're out in the world, right, they're going to lose that language. And so I think with adding that into play and what you've been saying, I think it is very important to maybe consider raising Spanish only kids. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why I thought it was important to name it and give it a name is because I see so many moms doing it. But the most important and I would say hardest part, right, of this stage is just not giving into the pressure. Because even, in my own family, my husband speaks English, but my mom doesn't. And she was looking at me when my son was what I like to call a Spanish first kid. She was looking at me going, tienes que enseñarle inglés. ¿Cómo va a hablar con su papá? Nunca le va a entender. And so it's so important. There's so much pressure during that. And that's what makes it really hard as moms. So I think it's important that we give it a name and we stay confident in what we're doing. And that's why I love this online community. And I love that we're kind of talking about this because it makes moms feel more comfortable and more kind of backed, right? And give them the answers to give to these family members, friends, people in general, because that everybody has an opinion. And so I think it's important to have the information to know and be confident that, you know what, like this is the stage and I'm going to really embrace this because English will come quick. And when it does, sometimes it's hard to turn back from that, right? And then you have the handful of parents saying, es que no me contesta en inglés. No, digo, no me contesta en español, nomás me contesta en inglés. And so in order to get there, we have to see this stage through to the other side.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you mentioned a little bit about moms perhaps feeling guilty because they don't do enough. And I completely agree. Right now, I feel kind of empowered, just because we're in this transition of like moving to the motherland, ¿verdad? I'm not going to struggle as much. Now I'm like, oh man, maybe I'm going to struggle with the English part. And now we're going to have to reverse our language plan, ¿verdad? Pero oftentimes a lot of moms feel guilty because they're not doing enough and raising, Spanish dominant kids or even like bilingual kids. Or they regret not raising them bilingual. And then as their kids get older, they're like, oh, I missed out. Like, oh my gosh, I did such a poor job. Y ya no pueden hablar con sus abuelitos. And so, what would you say to a mom that feels guilty about either not incorporating enough Spanish, whatever that means at home, or worry that their kids are going to lose their language? What would you tell a mom who's struggling with that bilingual guilt?
So first of all, I would say guilt means you care, right? Which is already part of it and seeing it. But guilt doesn't move the needle. So we have to do something that really moves the needle. I think there's a big self-consciousness aspect to this. I feel like I meet so many moms that like, no, es que mi español this, or it's just not good enough, or they're just going to learn it wrong. So first of all, I want to say, if there's room to learn alongside your child if you really feel that that is one of the things holding you back, because you're modeling very powerful language learning for your child. You're also modeling at the same time how important this is to you. It's so important to me that I'm going to do this with you and we can do it together, right? So I think that's one aspect. Another big aspect is if you're scared or you're worried that they're going to learn it wrong, speak to them in Spanish, because children are amazing at filling in the gaps. So you're talking to them and you said a word wrong. There's cartoons that are going to, if you do any screen time, that are going to fill in. There's audio content that are going to hear it properly. There's music. There's other people, right? There are so many opportunities for them to fill in those gaps that saying, well, it's not good enough for them. They're going to learn it wrong. They're not going to learn it wrong. They're hearing it in action. They're creating a connection to the language. You're making it a priority, and they see that priority, they see how important it is. And so my advice would be, don't let that hold you back. Just don't let that hold you back.
Absolutely. Like there's no perfect manual, in raising a bilingual child. Yes, there's resources. Yes, there is a community out there like you and me and so many other people that are active on social media specifically, but there's also books, there's podcasts, there's like a plethora of like resources out there. Pero también, like, there isn't a specific right or wrong way of raising a bilingual child. And I love that you say that, our kids are able to fill in the gaps. And I totally agree. Como yo ahorita me considero like more English dominant, I would say since I was maybe 10 years old, because that was all what I was exposed to in school. And as you know, kids spend a lot of time in school more than home. And even though we did speak Spanish at home, specifically with my grandma when she used to babysit us, like she was our caregiver, we would mostly speak, half and half between English and Spanish to my parents because they understood it, but they would still respond in Spanish. And to say that, and now us raising, Spanish first, Spanish dominant children, it is very hard porque hay veces que I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know the word. And so I'm here asking Siri on the quicks, and this Siri is Española Castellano, And then Google Translate is like, I don't know what Google Translate is, pero it's cute that my kids get to see that they know that I am not perfect and we're both learning this together. Like the other day we were watching El Rey León and I was like, oh, está gritando el león. And Diego was like, no, mami, está rugiendo. And I'm just like, okay, that's
right. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's exactly how it's supposed to be, I think, at some point, right? That's our goal. You know what I mean? And it really comes to show that, yes, they really do fill in the gaps. They're really amazing. And I mean, as long as you're supporting yourself, I feel like, and kind of relying, we're lucky, right? That we are in an era where we can kind of rely on other resources and we're not doing it on our own. And that's what makes it a complete picture for the child as well, right? And that's what fills in those gaps. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And can you share some specific strategies that have worked for you and your family and the families that you've worked with as it relates to raising Spanish first kids? I'm kind of curious. Y con eso, that's where we're wrapping up this best of VLM episode. But don't worry, this is just a little taste. If you nodded along, had an aha moment, or felt seen as a modern Latina mama, then go listen to the full episode. There is so much more waiting for you, and you deserve all of it. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please take a moment to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me and it helps other mamás just like you discover this comunidad. All right, amiga. Well, thank you so much for being here. Hasta la próxima. And now go get that full episode.